listener production.
Hey, Bension, Siebert and Sacha Barbour Gatt here with you for the briefing. A short time ago, Donald Trump and Elon Musk wrapped up their live interview on X in yet another wild moment in this year's US presidential election. The fact Trump agreed to be on X at all is a big turnaround for the former president, who once called Musk another bullshit artist. Trump is also a long-time skeptic of one of Musk's babies, electric vehicles. Musk, for his part, tweeted in 2022 that Trump should, quote, hang up his hat and sail on into the sunset. But a lot has changed over 2 years, Sacha.
Yeah, that's right, Bension. Elon and Donald sat down for what Trump's team billed as the biggest interview in history. But it got off to a really shaky start. The X live stream was meant to start at 10 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, but it was hold music, glitches and silence until more than 40 minutes in. Musk said there had been a massive denial of service attack on X's servers, which underlined how much some people don't want to hear Trump talk. That's what Elon Musk said. But when the Trump interview did eventually get underway this morning, more than 1 million people were listening in. So let's get into the top takeaways. The key topics that they covered was first the assassination attempt. They went into illegal immigration, the Democrats, Biden and Harris, the potential of World War III and the economy. But let's get started with the attempted assassination. Now, cast your mind back 3 weeks, Donald Trump made his triumphant appearance at the Republican National Convention. It was his first speech since he had been the victim of an attempted assassination. And at the start of that speech, everyone was waiting with bated breath. He was going to talk about the moment for the first time. And he said, I'm not going to talk about this ever again. You're going to hear me talk about it once. Well, we now know that's not true because Trump spoke at great length about the attempted assassination when he was talking with Musk.
The sort of slide that got you to turn that saved your life, really, was the illegal immigration slide. Maybe this.
That's right. Illegal immigration saved my life. You're right, but it had to be at that exact angle.
I mean, that's a great one.
My question was, is it a ploy for sympathy? We've seen kind of this faltering Trump campaign over the last few weeks, and everyone looked at that moment like he was invincible and that he was going to win the election, and then that kind of petered out. So the question of whether he and Musk were talking about it to kind of boost the sympathy factor again, whether that was a factor, I'm not sure. He was repeating a lot of the points that he had already covered, you know. It was definitely a bullet and it hit me so hard and there was a lot of blood. Musk did praise Trump as being inspirational. He said a lot of people admired your courage at the time. Trump went on to talk about how he's now more of a believer in God. So nothing new there. This was all covered territory. We knew everything that Trump felt about the assassination because he'd already talked about it. It did seem like Musk was trying to move him through towards the end, like he was trying to be like, okay, yep, we've talked about this, we've covered this, let's get into something else. Trump kept pulling it back to the attempted assassination. And, you know, I suppose if you go through something traumatic, you know, it's only been a few weeks. I'm sure he's still deeply affected by it, so you can't really blame the man. But it was interesting that for a chat that I think was intended to kind of, you know, Musk at the start said, this is for open-minded voters. I feel like Musk probably was like, this is old ground, let's get into policy. And they did eventually get their Bension. They started talking about what else? Immigration. What did you take away from that?
Yeah, they finally did get onto something other than that thing that Trump said that he would never talk about again because it was so painful. It did strike me as kind of, for want of a better word, bullshit when he said that at the RNC National Convention. And immigration was another thing that he was going on and on and on about at the Republican National Convention. It really underlines, I think, in this interview, how important Trump thinks white anxiety about immigration and other people coming in and the border is as a really central issue in this election.
They're coming from Africa. They're coming from Asia. They're coming from the Middle East. They're coming from South America.
Well,
they're coming from everywhere.
Earth, basically.
And there are a lot of really bad ones.
It's just an everywhere on Earth thing, and it's just not possible for the United States to absorb, you know, everyone from Earth or you know, even a few percent of the rest of Earth. It's just not possible.
We're going to have the largest deportation in history of this country, and we have no choice.
Elon Musk gave this anecdote where he said that he flew to the border and went there to see if this problem is actually a problem. And he said he watched people streaming in and, quote, "the people that I saw did not look friendly." Not sure exactly what that means, Elon, but he did say that. He did say that he was supportive of immigration, if not illegal immigration. And Trump went back to some of the points that he made at the Republican National Convention, claiming that other countries all around the world were sending their prisoners, their insane people, their murderers, all to the US in order to get rid of them to the US.
I don't understand what's taken them so long to get here, because we're such a target-rich environment. Why aren't more people who have a career in, bad things coming here sooner? Because it's a piece of cake to go rob, houses in LA or New York compared to other parts of the world. And in a lot of places in America, if you try to stop the person who's robbing you, you'll be arrested.
Yeah.
So it's insane.
It's right.
Trump has repeatedly talked about migrant crime throughout this campaign, and there is data on crime in the US, and it just doesn't support the idea that migrants are behind a surge in crime. There's been a significant increase in immigration to the US in recent times, and the crime rate has stayed pretty flat. But the other thing that they got onto talking about around the world was foreign conflicts.
All the stuff that you're seeing now, all the horror that you look at Israel, they're all waiting for an attack from Iran. Iran would not be attacking, believe me. When I was there, and I say it with respect because I think we would have been good with Iran. I don't want to do anything bad to Iran, but they knew not to mess around.
So this is something else that we've heard Trump talk about during this campaign, and it's he lays the blame of the war in Gaza, the Ukraine war, at the feet of Joe Biden. Trump says that if he was in power, Putin never would have invaded Ukraine and Hamas never would have launched the attack on Israel. He also brought up Iran as well. So that's a whole other aspect of world conflicts that we're seeing at the moment, that Trump is saying none of this would have happened if I was in charge. And he talked about that again with Elon Musk. And it was interesting because Elon Musk talked about the fact that these leaders respect power and they respect strength and they don't respect weakness. Now, he was making this point saying that Donald Trump is strong and has power and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris appear weak, and so that therefore that respect doesn't exist.
I said to Vladimir Putin, I said, don't do it. You can't do it, Vladimir. You do it, it's going to be a bad day. You cannot do it. And I told him things that what I do, and he said, no way. And I said, way.
Donald Trump said, I know Putin, I know Xi, I know Kim Jong-un, I know all of them. When they see Kamala, they can't even believe it that she's in power. And he said that getting on well with them, which he has again talked about in the past, it's a good thing that they get along. And, he talked up the red button on his desk when he was US president and that his was bigger and worked compared to the North Korean leaders' quote unquote red button. So kind of just, a lot of big noting, a lot of talking about how strong and powerful he appears on the world stage, which, is his perception of how he appears to other people. But Elon Musk was playing into it. And I did notice that throughout the interview, there was a lot of, yeah, you're right. Yeah, it was very, and Elon Musk was never saying this is going to be like a journalist interviewing a politician. It was going to be a conversation. But it was Trump talking and Elon Musk most of the time just agreeing with what he had to say. Donald Trump also brought up the Iron Dome again. Now, this is something that Israel has, that at the RNC speech, Donald Trump said that he would build an Iron Dome in the US, that it would be made in the US and that it would protect them because, and he talked about this as well, World War III was, we were on the brink of World War III and that there were people who wanted to attack other countries and that America could be at risk. So he wants to build this Iron Dome.
It was so bad, the words that he was using, the stupid threats coming from a stupid face that he was using. I said, this guy's going to cause us a war. He's going to cause us. And let me tell you, it can lead to World War III.
Look, the other point was the economy, Bension, and once again, Donald Trump kind of reiterated the same talking points.
Absolutely. He keyed in on inflation. He said that the economy is a disaster, and that's what most people care about. Elon explained how he believed inflation was simply a matter of government overspending. He said that government spending needed to reduce, and he also called for a new commission to examine it. And it was interesting to hear Elon Musk continually raise this point, because in the past he has called for a, quote, efficiency commission or a government efficiency commission. He wants to lead this thing. So what he was really angling for is for Trump to say, yes, we will have this thing and you will lead it. He almost got him there, but not quite.
Yeah, look, and before we get into our overall final key takeaways, we should quickly touch on climate change. Now, this is something Donald Trump keeps saying, drill, baby, drill. He wants to light up the oil industry if he takes office again in January. He wants to scrap all the green policies that Joe Biden has brought in, and he wants to let oil and, big polluting business do their thing without any sort of red tape or restrictions. Now, both of them kind of delicately danced around the climate change issue. Musk did flag that he wants more sustainable tech, but he doesn't, quote, want to vilify gas and fossil fuel businesses or stop farmers from farming.
On balance, it's probably better to move there faster than slower, but like I said, without vilifying the oil and gas industry.
And it's worth pointing out that, the both of them were kind of just spewing out these random climate facts that probably needed to be checked quite thoroughly. A whole lot of pseudoscience and stuff that, we can't really say is fact or not.
The biggest threat is not global warming, where the ocean's going to rise 1/8 of an inch over the next 400 years. And you'll have more oceanfront property, right?
Definitely not the two spokespeople you necessarily think of when you think of climate change and making positive action. So they were the main points that the two discussed. Again, nothing new. I mean, my overall takeaway was we shouldn't have expected anything better from the pair. I think that when Elon opened with we want to appeal to open-minded people and this is a place for open-minded voters, I thought that maybe there would be a little bit more insight from Donald Trump. I think that they wanted to do it as a conversation so that it wasn't as structured and as rigid. But as we have seen with Trump's performances at rallies, he likes a long speech. He likes to ramble, and Elon Musk let him ramble and talk and talk and talk about the same points that he's already covered. So I can't see where anything he said is going to win over an undecided voter, which I think this was part of him trying to rebuild his campaign after a pretty rough last few weeks. He also just completely has this inability to just be pleasant. And I think while politicians can be pretty vitriolic, I think that there's always an element of being respectful of your opponent. And I know this is nothing new, but, he spoke about Biden not having an IQ at all. He said that Kamala is incompetent and that she took power in a coup, like just really, really nasty comments.
I beat Biden. He failed in the debate miserably. We cannot have her. She's incompetent. She's as bad as Biden in a different... And say what you want. This was a coup. This was a coup of a president of the United States. He didn't want to leave, and they said, we can do it the nice way or we can do it the hard way.
Yeah, they just took him out back behind the shed and basically shot him.
What they did with this guy, and I'm no fan of his, and he was a horrible president, the worst president in history.
My overall takeaway is that we didn't really learn anything new, but I got to say it was pretty interesting to sit and listen to Elon Musk and Donald Trump have a conversation. Bension, what did you get out of it?
Well, I thought that it was pretty poor as an interview. When it started, as you mentioned, Elon Musk talked about how, when politicians go up for combative interviews, they're not really able to be themselves. And the problem with doing a really softball interview where you're just basically agreeing with everything that the person says is that it's boring. And it's a really unusual sensation to sit there listening to Donald Trump speak, and the singular emotion is I'm kind of getting bored. Like, we've heard this stuff before and none of it's really getting over what we've heard. And that whole starting with the assassination thing, which we've discussed already, but I think it just gave the impression of a guy who longs for 3 weeks ago, when the political moment was, this is an unstoppable political force, and just hasn't been able to figure out how to make a new case for himself and against Kamala Harris. I think on immigration and foreign policy, Trump probably made arguments that will appeal certainly to his base and to some parts of the voting public when it comes to the idea that, you need this strong leader in order to make sure Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping don't go out of line. But overall, this kind of reminded me of that episode of The Simpsons where they say, Mr. Burns, your campaign seems to have the momentum of a runaway freight train. Why are you so popular? And I think I will be much more interested to see the debate that is coming up on September 10th, which will be a much more, I think, interesting and fiery exchange.
Yeah, I'd agree. Bension, thank you so much for sitting down with me to chat all things Trump and Musk. It was definitely a morning. We will catch you next time. And that is it for this episode of The Briefing. Thanks so much for listening. Before you go, we'd love it if you could share this ep with someone you think might enjoy it. And if you want to keep up with our other content, we are on Instagram at The Briefing Podcast. You can also check us out on TikTok and YouTube. Search Listener Newsroom. I'm Sacha Barbour Gatt, joined by Bension Siebert, and we'll see you next time.